Hmm. Carl, thoughts on that? Carl, was it Steve Nash's fault, or is it more of, are you putting more blame on
Man,
the players?
see, listen, it's like a half and half. Like Blake said, I probably agree with it's like a half and half thing. But I'm gonna say this: I remember Kyrie and KD saying, I don't know if you all remember this. When Steve Nash got hired, they said, "Oh, we really don't need a coach."
Mm-hmm.
That set them up for failure right there, right then and there. And they let them. That kind of lets you know kind of what they thought of him as a coach. Like I don't know if they didn't take him serious or what, but right when they said that, he probably didn't have no chance of just like kind of connecting with them on like a coaching and players level. So that was bad in of itself. Um, you got Kyrie like with his situations with the media. Steve Nash had to answer to them situations when
Yeah,
he
he answered to those a lot.
see, that's what I'm saying. Like it's not just him. Like people just go point out, like, okay, he could have like been better with adjustments, but the fact that he had to answer to some of these questions, Kyrie, when he wasn't there, when he just left because he had some issues, he had to answer to that. Kyrie didn't, because obviously he wasn't there. Steve Nash had to answer to that. And then you got the situations with him and the media. And then you got the situation with Kevin Durant requesting a trade. Steve Nash had to talk more than Kevin Durant did about that. So that's like, I don't know too many coaches that probably would have did great in that situation too. Though he like is bad at adjustments and everything. We saw that in the playoffs against the Celtics. But then again, like I said, it's not too many coaches that'll come out underneath that rock that they put them under.
Yeah. It's one of the most conflicting. So you guys pretty much mentioned it. You have to think about everything that happens. So Steve Nash gets there, and it's just Kyrie and KD. Then out of nowhere, James Harden comes in. Now you have to implement another superstar player alongside with two other superstar players and figure out how they're going to mesh. And ultimately, they did figure it out, but that was really short-lived because injuries started to play a factor. We didn't see Kyrie play, a lot, in that playoff run they had, when James Harden was there and when they lost to the Bucks, and then kind of after that we get, this, the vaccine situation, with Kyrie. And so the whole thing with Steve Nash, as you mentioned, because I'm not going to get into the whole Kyrie thing and, arguing with his belief system, whatever. But the thing about Nash is, quite frankly, from a business standpoint, he did have to answer to a lot of that Kyrie stuff. And as a coach, just the stuff that went on with Kyrie was so bizarre. That's really tough to answer to. And that's something that you have to do it in a way, because one thing I'll give Nash credit for is with that, he wasn't ultra critical of Kyrie. He never, he had to keep team morale up. So we never criticized Kyrie, never criticized his decisions or anything. At the same time, it was a really tough balancing act that he had to do, basically,
Yeah.
And like you said, you mentioned the question about if they even wanted him there. Initially they did, but he gets there. Then you mentioned the quote, we don't really need a coach, and then so they all that external stuff that Nash had to deal with. And then, like I said, it's a balancing act. He wasn't that great from an X's and O's standpoint. Looking early on in the season, and it was only probably 5 games, I don't like how they're using Ben Simmons. I said that they needed to use Ben Simmons in that Draymond Green type of role. I said he don't need to ball up court and all of that. Last year, we saw some issues from an X's and O's standpoint. Defensively, they were trash, but also how much defense can he coach if they're not giving effort? He said that many times.
Yeah.
Effort. So I don't really know who to point the finger at with them.
Yeah. I don't know. Like you said, you can try to coach defense. You can try to tell them you need to do this, do that, but they grown men out there. You can't, they're not kids. You can't make them do something. All you can try to do is tell them or give them advice how to do it. It's up to them to follow it.
Yeah.
So he even I think it was a report on Twitter. He even said that players aren't responding to him. So there's only so much you can do when you don't have the locker room anymore.
He literally, I think that was a press conference. I don't know why I never watch any press conferences, but I was literally watching that very press conference where he was saying at some point it's about effort. And I'm going to sit here and say this: the Nets have good defensive guys on the roster. Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton, there are solid enough defenders on his roster. Kevin Durant's rarely been on a sorry defensive team. You know what I'm saying? Kyrie's not the best defender, but he can go out there and guard. I remember one bragging point about me with Kyrie whenever I compare him to Steph is I'd say Kyrie's a better defender than Steph. So like I said, a lot of it was effort. A lot of it was chemistry. There were some lineup issues too, because I just didn't like some of the guys that are on the court. Granted, I guess some of his options were limited. But it was such a bizarre situation. But in these situations a lot, quite frankly, the coach is going to be the top 2 or the number 1, scapegoat. That's how it's going to happen, because they're not going to trade. They can't trade anybody this early. You can't just sit here and just, complain. Something has to get done. And so from a business and a organizational standpoint, it kind of seemed right if they were that annoyed to the start of the season. The first guy you're always going to look at is the coach. So we'll see how they are after this, but it's I don't want to sit here and do this thing where we're like, yeah, Nash was this shitty coach, amongst the likes of like a Luke Walton or some coach. Don't want to do that too early.
Yeah. He wasn't that bad. He just wasn't. I feel like if you have to deal with Kyrie and KD, I feel like you need to be like on your shit. Like I'm talking like 100%. You need to be, I'm not calling them mentally weak, but I'm just saying you need to be on another level as far as like mental strength to deal with them too sometimes. Cause you don't know, like for him to request a trade, that kind of, I don't know. It kind of destroys the team chemistry too. Cause people be like, why do you want to get traded? Or whatever the case may be. Or Kyrie with his situations with the media, he kind of maybe distance himself from other team because the team don't feel that way. So it's a whole lot of. That's why I don't know. The way it's going on, I don't care what coach they get. I just don't see them winning because the chemistry on the court is just not there. They all play like separate from each other. That is not team basketball. Everybody's playing by themselves, if that makes sense.
True.
So
no real offensive. And you always, the first team you got to point to when you're talking about like a quote unquote super team or whatever is Golden State. And the thing that linked, well, I don't want to say they're a super team because when KD was there, they were. But Steve Kerr came up with a consistent system. This goes to show you, and we've talked about it before, just having a bunch of stars on the team ain't going to always get it. So you have to have a system that's going to make it work for those guys. And Nash just couldn't implement that, Yeah.
I was going to ask you all this. Do you think the problem is they gave Kyrie and KD too much power in terms of like where the organization should go?
That's a big question.
I think that's the issue.
Because the whole thing about the trading thing, right? Like there was a thing early about Katie saying you either trade me or trade or get rid of Nash. I mean, dude, it's Kevin Durant and Kyrie. So it's almost tough to say no to those guys. You can't get, that's why you got to stick with them is because the downs could be like when it's bad, it's bad, but when it's great. Like this, if they're at their best, this is a championship team if they're all on their shit. That's the thing. The upside is so high. So I maybe, but then again, it's tough to say no to Kevin Durant and Kyrie. It just is.
It is, but clearly it ain't working.
True.
It's the third year. What's their third year together? Third or fourth? What is it?
Yeah, third year. Because
that first year was Katie there when Kyrie was there the first year? Were they there, both there?
Katie was hurt their first year.
Okay, I was just seeing if they were both there. I know one of them was hurt. But because you traded away Caris LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie. That was good 2 young players you had for James Harden, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawing blank. Okay. Yeah, so like this, obviously
Dinwiddie.
Was he still there? Because I'm trying to remember.
Dinwiddie got moved in. Oh, he was in the I forgot what deal he was in. I know he ended up.
I'm gonna have to look it out because it don't sound right when I say
it. He ended up going to Washington, and then from Washington he went to
I forget who Washington got in there. It was a weird deal, but they did get rid of a lot of those core guys.
I mean, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, they did get rid of a lot of those core guys, to kind of keep to get the Harden.
Honestly, I would have kept building off of that 2018, 2019. That's probably the best team they've had. No, I know. Granted, they've had with some really good teams. They just haven't been able to do anything with them. But I think that 2018-19 team, in terms of team chemistry, actually having a team identity, that was probably one of their best teams they've had recently.
And this is D'Angelo Russell. That's the D'Angelo Russell, Jared Allen, that team.
I feel like if they would have kept building on that team, they would have been.
Because Spencer Dinwiddie, he left like the following, or he was hurt, or they didn't re-sign him in free agency, I think. But he wasn't involved in the James Harden trade.
Okay.
It was Taurean Prince, Jared Allen, and Caris LeVert that was involved in that trade.
That was that big trade, yeah.
That's what it was. I was trying to remember because it didn't seem right when I said Spencer Dinwiddie was involved with that because he was hurt. So they just didn't sign him.
The big three, I think it was like a 3-team, some weird shit, a big 3-team. All in all, they had opportunity. They had, like Blake said, the Nets, when you look at them as a whole, because we criticize the Lakers a lot. If you look at the Nets, it kind of is like, now I will say this, KD moved there in free agency. Kyrie moved there in free agency. So you can't say it. Like I said, hindsight, you can't say no to that. And also I understand developing guys, but KD and Kyrie, just having that duo is just really intriguing to hear. So it's almost tough to say no to that. Now, I will say this. We talked about not knowing if a coach is going to be able to change some of that on the court stuff. I would say the dude they're thinking about replacing Steve Nash with, Ime Udoka, can be that guy. Remember our criticisms about Boston. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the floor together isn't really sufficient, right? Remember, that was our biggest thing. You can't have two guys like that on the team together and expect something to happen. Udoka comes in and he implements these X's and O's changes and all of that, but he implements a stronger team culture. They didn't get that point. Remember, our biggest thing with Boston a couple years back or before that guy Udoka was, are they going to get that true point guard? Never got him under Udoka. They had Brogdon, but obviously Udoka's not coaching their ass right now. So I think Udoka is a great enough coach to come in and change that culture and be a motivating factor because he's known as a great player coach and he has a great relationship with KD. Steve Nash did too. But Ime Udoka's black.
Yeah.
That could make it be a lot better for him. So
it can, but then they did have a good relationship, him and Steve Nash. But that's a question too, because after the press conference, they asked KD, how do you feel about Steve Nash getting fired? He looked like he didn't give a fuck. I'm be honest. He just answered the question. I woke up, I saw it. I mean, it happens every day in our league. I'm like, nigga, you don't care about this dude getting fired?
Yeah, they know.
That tells me something.
Yeah, because he showed this.
He had something to do with it.
I'm Steve Nash. I'm happy I ain't got to deal with them fools anymore.
No, low key, because I'm hella thinking that like I wouldn't want to be there.
That's a win-win. Good Lord, I wouldn't want to get any more gray dealing with them.
Yeah, because that's a lot. I don't want to get too critical to players or whatever, but that everything he had to deal with, that's a lot of shit to deal with.
That's too much stress. I'm just coaching niggas playing basketball. That's too much stress.
And the media was on his ass too. It wasn't just the players.
You know, they were, because you got to think about it. When they say mutually part ways, we know they always say mutually part ways for the white dudes, not the brothers. But in this case, you know, when we involved, they just say they fire our ass.
Yeah.
But in this case, I don't know if I might believe the mutual part ways way too, honestly, because I don't know. He looked like he was stressed out on that sideline. Yeah. I ain't gonna lie. So I don't know if he actually did. They actually did have a mutual agreement saying, okay, I can't do this no more or whatever. But I can't blame him. Because I'm not saying like some of the shit like Kyrie was doing was crazy, or the fact that KD requested a trade. That's just a lot to deal with.
It's a lot to deal with.
2 weeks. And then the media asking you questions, and the niggas that was doing the action wasn't like answering it as much as Steve Nash was. Like, yeah.
You know what it reminds me of? It's not the exact same thing, but it's the Steven Silas thing, right? Like we were so excited for Steven Silas to have that Rockets job, for him to finally have that opportunity. Then he gets there.
That nigga lost like 20 in a row.
Man, I mean, because he gets there and we're like, oh, James Harden and Christian Wood, is this the new, duo or whatever? You know, it's Christian Wood's big opportunity to show his shit off or whatever. And he gets down there, and by the time he's there, Harden doesn't even want to play. So, you know what I mean?
But you can't put that on Silas.
No, I'm not at all. I'm saying it's almost the same thing. Like, it's like, damn, bro. Like,
I just hate that they put all of that on.
Yeah, because Steven Silas literally came in expecting to try to build off of like the previous year. And then he comes in and out of nowhere. Nope, you're rebuilding. And he's got guys like Jalen Green and KPJ and Jabari Smith. I'm not saying that's a bad young group, because it is a great young group, but you come in, your expectation is playoffs and possibly conference finals, maybe, and then you leave, or not you leave. Time goes on and now you're rebuilding. You know, so it's almost the same thing. Yeah, Nash is happy as hell. He ain't there no more. And I'm happy for him. And it wouldn't be crazy to think there's a little Jason Kidd in him. Maybe there's a team he can go to in the future where he's and it's kind of crazy too, because they both battle each other a lot. But maybe it's that type of thing, you know, where he goes to a different team and he's better off.
See, you just stole what I was about to say. Man. I forgot what I was about to say to start the show. That's what it was.
In Brooklyn, it was Brooklyn that made us think he was a bad coach. Remember that?
Yeah.
Did
he coach? He coached Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert. Jason Kidd didn't he?
No.
No. Was it Paul Pierce? Was it? No, it wasn't him.
It was the Paul Pierce
or
team.
Was it?
And I think
that was hellas ago.
Yeah, and I think he got the job right after he retired too. Right after he retired, 2013. And then obviously he went on to Milwaukee, and he was the reason I always credit him for the beginning of the Giannis era, because he's the first guy to really start experimenting with Giannis. So maybe Steve Nash has that in him. We'll have to see. But maybe he's one of those dudes, because it's tough to think that a point guard like him can't thrive at some point as a coach. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just tough to
Yeah.
think.
Even if it's not now, maybe sometime down the line. But
Yeah,
I think he has a future coaching.
for sure, dude.
He
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
a break he need a break right now. Honestly.
He need about a 5-year
Yeah.
break.
Yeah, no. Yeah, because if you seen when he started coaching there, he have all the wrinkles in face, wrinkles in his face, and the crow's feet shit by his eyes. He had it. I saw him yesterday. He looked like I'm not gonna make a joke, but he didn't look too good.
He didn't look too good. And like
Yeah.
I think Blake mentioned that press conference he had a couple minutes ago. Man, I heard it, and he was literally tired of the effort. Like he literally said, I'm paraphrasing, but he literally said, "Man, there's only so much I can do from a coaching standpoint about defense," and he's got defensive bias.
You can talk all day till you blue in the face. If nobody want to do it, then I mean, I can't make you do it.
Yeah.
Come out on the court and play with you. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And people get tired of that.
Yeah, it's even with like the management has been off too, because why the fuck did they sign DeAndre Jordan? I was pissed off with that. And then they were actually playing him more than Nick Claxton at one point.
Yeah.
He was getting more time than Nick. So that shows you because he's KD and Kyrie's friend, they got a little bit more, they got too much say so in my opinion, because everybody knew DeAndre Jordan was done. He's definitely not the player he once was. So it goes with that. And I was gonna mention with the Ime Udoka situation, Stephen A actually, he didn't predict this, but he just gave him his opinion. He was like, I just think the Celtics don't want to fire him completely because they're afraid if the Nets fire Steve Nash, they're gonna get him. And look, behold, he said that like 3 weeks ago too. It was crazy how that kind of became a real thing.
Well, there's a lot of foreshadowing about that, because somebody mentioned a couple weeks ago on Snapchat that the Nets are going to end up with Steve Nash or Ime Udoka, and I was like, there's no way that happens. There's no way that happens.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy because like when Stephen A said, I'm like, he said, I don't have any sources. I'm just saying telling you all what I think, and it's crazy that could become a real thing. So, But they said they're going to have to, most likely Boston is going to have to give them not Boston, the Nets are going to have to give the Boston like draft picks.
Yeah.
Because of the way because of suspension and he's still technically under their wing or contract or whatever. So it's like a trade kind of
trade coaching
way.
Yeah.
That's an interesting dynamic how you trade coaches.
Yeah. I think Carl was the first person to tell me about that because I didn't know that was a fucking thing before.
Oh yeah.
But you do it.
John Gruden in football got traded.
I think you go ahead and do it. Ime Udoka was the surprise coach last year. He's a dude that KD gravitates towards, players gravitate towards him. Unfortunate situation in Boston, but I'm glad to see that he's got a new job and he's going to take over the Nash thing. And I think that's going to be the turning point, because I think it just came down to, I just don't think they wanted to play for Steve Nash. I think honestly, bro, a lot of this stuff is going to end when Udoka's there. I don't see Udoka. I just don't see Udoka having the stuff at the time with those guys as Steve Nash did. I just don't.
I don't know. That is the case. I kind of feel bad for Steve Nash because it's not like he's a bad person or nothing like that. Neither is Udoka. I mean, it's not like they're bad people. It's just, I don't know. I guess they don't really see him as like that head coaching figure.
Yeah. Who are some coaches who deserve who you like to see in that position? Like, just name some. One is Tom Thibodeau. I love to see Tom Thibodeau put in that position, dude. Pause.
Oh,
I love to see him coach.
Oh goddamn. You see that little comb over he be doing with the Knicks, little comb over because he balded. All that shit would be gone if he was with the Nets. I
want him to try all that defensive slide shit with Kyrie and KD in practice, boy. They wouldn't like, boy.
Oh, Kyrie, Kyrie would definitely like. You think he would like cause conflict with the media like now? Oh, he would just be saying shit. At that point, it would be nothing about what he believed in. He would just say the shit just to piss him off.
If Tom Thibodeau coached Ben Simmons, that man is never picking up a basketball again in his life.
Oh no,
that man is never picking up basketball. What's another coach that y'all would love to see in Luke Walton? For some, he's not even coaching right now, but I'd like to see Luke Walton go in Brooklyn.
No, them niggas wouldn't. Them niggas be running the circus. You don't want him to coach.
Oh yeah. It'd be so much.
I'm sure he's a nice dude, but Luke Walton is an awful coach.
Yeah, he was that whole Lakers thing.
The Magic said that's why he left, because they didn't want to fire Luke Walton,
which was dumb. I don't know what about Luke Walton that from the day one. I guess, and I guess because he was in the goal. Because I think a lot of these guys
most of it comes from him kind of being a legacy.
True. Or also the Golden State Warriors coaching branch. Like, I think a lot of people, for a minute, everybody's trying to get a dude that came from under Greg Popovich.
That's
You know, Mike Malone came
it's-
from under Popovich, or Budenholzer did. And I think it was that same thing with Steve Kerr. So Nash was on that Warriors staff, and they thought he was going to bring some shit to Brooklyn, and same with Luke Walton, and then obviously ain't nothing happened with
That don't work. I don't think that works as well as it does. Because in the NFL, that works a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you got coaches coming from Andy Reid. Now, my boy Sean McVay. A lot of coaches, because he got the best offense in the league for the last 5 years or whatever. Not now, because we asked. But they get a lot of coaches that's been on his coaching staff. I think it works a lot better in football than it does in basketball, because you in basketball, you need the perfect players. Like Steve Kerr has Steph Curry, and then he has Klay Thompson. So it's not going to, everybody's not them, where nobody's them. So it's not going to work. Same system.
Alabama, they do a little bit of the same thing. I know some
Mm-hmm.
5, 6 head coaches that came from under Saban.
All of them ass, just about.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin, he's pretty cool. I think this doing all right.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So let's see. So I think the Udoka thing. My bad. I think the Udoka thing is going to change. Is going to turn everything around for this Nets team. I really do, because like I said, it just comes sometimes. It sometimes doesn't come down to if the guys. And this is the tough thing about it. It's not that Nash is a bad leader. He just wasn't the guy they wanted to be led by. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
And Udoka's a guy that a lot of players want to be led by. I think that's what it comes down to. It was almost the same thing with Brad Stevens. Almost they had, but almost the same thing. So.
Yeah, the Brad Stevens thing is interesting. I don't want to make that like the topic, but I feel like they just didn't want to fire him because they liked him.
Yeah.
So I feel like they gave him a job because the dude was coaching there for like 6 years.
He was there for a long time.
And they didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it a race thing. I just find it hard to believe that a black dude be coaching there that long and wouldn't just get straight up fired.
Yeah.
He got promoted. Like, that doesn't make sense, but whatever. Yeah, but I think you hoping if they hire Ime Udoka, because Sean Marks lied. I think they think about hiring him. He go lie to the press.
They gonna hire him.
He said, no, I'm not thinking about it. He had a little smirk on his face, low key at the end. But he said, no, I'm not gonna hire him. But we all know. But I think you hoping that just because like all the talent they got on their team, I don't know if that's still gonna do anything.
Yeah,
that team is mess. That team is just I don't know what it is. It's the chemistry is terrible. It feels like it doesn't feel like a team. It feels like everybody's an individual.
And everybody's just there. Yeah.
A whole lot of me.
And then the offense looks, it's very stagnant. It's just
2K-ish. It's 2K-ish.
It's a Chris Smoove will call it the whoever offense. I'm not even trying to be funny, but it literally looks like that. That's how that offense looks. You know what I mean? No, there is no, like, who's a real playmaker on that roster right now?
Nobody. And we all love KD and fucking Kyrie, but they ain't no. Like, I was talking to you about the other day. I was saying Kyrie's never been a true point guard. He's literally a scoring guard. That's like literally, that's great, but let's be honest, sometimes that can kind of get you. And same with KD. He's just a scoring forward. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that can kind of, if you can't facilitate or anything. So sometimes that can come back and get you. So I don't know.
Just a strange team, bro. Just a strange team.